The story begins with Seiji, a little girl with an unusual gift. She is never shy about confessing her feelings to handsome boys. When she develops a crush on a classmate, she tells him right away. To her surprise and joy, he admits he likes her too, and Seiji bursts into tears of happiness. But fate is cruel. The very next day, the boy suddenly transfers to another school, leaving her heartbroken. As the years pass, Seiji changes. Her hair no longer stays straight the way it once did, unlike her twin sister, Hyeji's. She begins to wonder if this difference is the result of inheriting her father's jealousy. Later, she secretly falls for a neighbor boy and even prepares a gift for him. On the day she gathers courage to confess, the boy comes to knock at her door, but he asks to see Hyeji, not her. That bitter experience makes Seiji promise herself never to confess again. That promise is shattered when she meets Hyen by the beach. With a body graceful as the waves, he captures her heart instantly. The next day, Hyen appears at school, drawing admiration from everyone. But to everyone's shock, he waves at Seiji, leaving her frozen while her friends stare in curiosity. Embarrassed, she explains she happened to meet him on the beach the day before. In class, Seiji sees the mock exam rankings and notices Hyen among the top 100, which grants him entry to the evening self-study room. Rumors say that confessing in that room almost guarantees success, but Seiji despairs. Her grades are far too low to qualify. During recess, she and her friends watch Hyen play basketball. Surrounded by admiring girls, Seiji decides to stand out. She buys him a drink, writes her name on it, and asks the canteen owner to deliver it. But the owner already knows who it's for. Many girls had made the same request that day. Outside, Seiji meets her curly-haired friend In, who is also holding a water bottle for Hyen. After school, Seiji returns to the beach, hoping Hyen will appear again. She waits in the sea, but instead, another boy shows up. He picks up her fallen name tag, and when her shirt drifts into the water, he reaches for it, but falls in. He cannot swim, and Seiji rushes to save him. She drags him ashore and leans down to give CPR, but before her lips touch his, he suddenly wakes. Seiji, furious and embarrassed, scolds him harshly. Yet deep down, she is relieved he is safe. The very next day, that same boy Zuk transfers into Seiji's school and class. His leg is in a cast from the incident, and the two immediately recognize each other. The teacher introduces him, revealing that Zuk is older. He had once taken the university exam, failed, and now had to return to school. Seiji greets him warmly, but he keeps a cold face and says little. The following morning, she sees him struggling with his cast and insists on helping, though he refuses. The supervisor scolds another student, Zaeyoung, for standing idle and orders him to help instead. Later, Seiji is scolded for not wearing her name tag. She lies, saying it must have disappeared, though in truth it is still with Zuk, who hasn't returned it. At lunch, Seiji and her friends bring food for Zuk, surprising him with their kindness. When others ask if Seiji really saved him at the beach, Zuk stays silent, but Seiji jumps in proudly and claims credit. Laughing, she even says he now owes her favors. He should hold her umbrella, bring her food, and buy them ice cream. Zuk cannot refuse. Later, her friends make her a new name tag. Zuk almost returns the original, but when he overhears someone saying, "Maybe the one who took your name tag did it because they like you," he quietly pulls his hand back. Meanwhile, Seiji insists once again that her heart belongs only to Hyen. "I like him. There's no room for anyone else," she declares. Just as she finishes, a ball suddenly flies at her. It nearly strikes her, but is kicked back at the last moment, and the one standing there is Hyen, walking directly toward her. After Hyen accidentally hit Seiji with the ball, he quickly apologized and showed concern, while Seiji lowered her gaze, shy and flustered. Her friends immediately teased that he must have done it on purpose just to find a chance to talk to her, though Zuk didn't see it that way at all. Back in class, Seiji's close friends revealed that Incheon's hair had somehow become perfectly straight again. Shocked, Seiji rushed to the next classroom to see for herself. It was true, and it was something she had always dreamed of. When she asked, she discovered that Incheon had her hair straightened at Jongmei Salon for an expensive price of 200,000 won. Curiosity and hope drove Seiji and her friends to visit the salon. Even though Seiji's hair was naturally very curly, The shop owner assured her it could be transformed. Returning home, she gathered all the money she had saved, but the amount was nowhere near enough for the treatment. Heartbroken, she went back to the salon just to look, when she suddenly overheard Sejuk addressing the owner as an outrageous idea formed in her mind. The next day, she began treating Zeok with unusual warmth, greeting him differently than before. After school, she pretended to bump into him right outside the salon and casually asked what he was doing there. He revealed that the salon belonged to his mother. Without hesitation, Seiji ran inside, introducing herself as his close friend and even reminding his mother that she had once saved his life at the beach. She promised to look after him at school, and in return, she hinted at wanting her hair straightened. His mother smiled and agreed, but only once his cast came off. From then on, Seiji involved herself fully in Zeok's daily life. She walked him to class, helped him during lessons, and made sure he returned home safely. She even assisted his mother in handing out flyers to promote the salon's reopening. One rainy afternoon, she led him to her father's warehouse for shelter, lending him her father's clothes. Inside were stacks of her comic books. When she asked if he liked reading, Zeok admitted he never had, which left her surprised. She eagerly picked out her favorites for him and even gave him the lock's password so he could come anytime. At the same time, Seiji and her friends began folding origami beads to prepare for her confession to Hyen. They heard Mijin, her rival, was folding 1,000, so they set their sights on 10,000. When Zeok overheard her plan, he tried to slip away quietly, but Seiji stopped him, insisting that his role was too important. He had to help straighten her hair before the big day. Reluctantly, he stayed and folded beads with her. Later, Seiji begged a classmate to swap seats with her in the evening self-study room, believing it was the perfect place to confess to Hyen. But he refused, fearing it would hurt his performance. Growing frustrated, he snapped at her. "You think confessing there will make him like you? Do you think Hyen is blind? You don't stand a chance. Don't waste your time." His harsh words crushed her spirit. That evening, Seiji walked to Zeok's house in tears. She left a jar of origami beads with him, then turned away and left quietly. Later, when she returned to her father's warehouse, she found the door unlocked. Inside, Zeok sat reading comics. Still clinging to her dream, Seiji said she would confess to Hyen only once her hair was straight, believing that was the only way he would ever like her. Zeok then pulled out a jar filled with the origami beads he had been secretly folding for her over the past few days. Seiji was stunned. When he asked what these beads truly meant, she replied softly, "They hold the feelings of me, you, and all my friends. Even if Hyen rejects me, I will keep this jar as a memory of the time we shared together." The following day, Seiji arrived at Zeok's house to take him to school, only to find his leg already free from its cast. She was thrilled. His mother reminded her of her promise, that once he healed, she could finally straighten her hair. Seiji smiled but decided to wait until the day before her planned confession to Hyen. At school, students gathered around the results of the latest mock exam. To everyone's surprise, Zeok's name appeared among the top ranks. He had worked tirelessly, knowing that Seiji needed someone to secure a place in the evening self-study room. After Zeok offered to trade seats so Seiji could enter the self-study room and fulfill her wish to confess, Seiji's heart felt light for the first time. But before she could celebrate, another piece of unexpected news reached her. Word spread that Hyen, the boy she adored, was filed in the exam. It felt as if fate was once again playing with her life. One day, a neighbor came to Seiji's house and spoke with her mother about Jang Mi's family, the owners of the hair salon. They said Jang Mi's son, Zeok, was one of the brightest in the school, and that his father was a professor at a prestigious university hospital. Seiji's mother wondered why such an accomplished family would be forced to move here. The neighbor explained the painful truth. The husband was consumed by jealousy, often mistreated his wife, and turned his frustrations onto his son, leaving the boy wounded, isolated, and forced to skip school and exams. Seiji, sitting nearby, overheard everything, and her heart ached. That evening, passing by her father's warehouse, Seiji noticed the light on. Inside, she saw her father sharing instant noodles with Zeok. Her father even handed him a disposable camera, saying there were many more inside, and he could use them whenever he liked. The next morning at school, Seiji noticed a poster about the upcoming picnic. Immediately, she began imagining it as the perfect chance to confess to Hyen. While she and her friends discussed the plan, Hyen walked by. As always, he waved at Seiji, and once again, her heart danced. During gym class, everyone paired up for a handball game. A girl quickly partnered with Hyen, leaving Seiji to team up with Zuk. The game grew tense. Hyen targeted the blue team, and Seiji nearly took a hit, but Zuk shielded her again and again. Then, in a reckless moment of love, Seiji threw herself in front of the ball to protect Hyen, an act that left Zuk bitterly disappointed. That evening, Seiji received a voice message from Hyen thanking her for saving him during the game. She was overjoyed, but moments later, another message arrived, this time from Zuk. His voice was filled with concern. He asked if she was in pain, scolded himself for leaving her behind, and told her not to be stubborn, but to buy ointment for faster healing. Seiji's emotions swirled as she listened to both messages, one filling her with giddy joy, the other with warmth and confusion. Later, she went to the salon, where Zuk's mother asked her to wash his hair. Both felt awkward in the closeness of the situation. But when Zuk accidentally applied conditioner before shampoo, his mother frowned in confusion. He knew better. He never made such mistakes. He excused himself quickly, and Seiji began to suspect his feelings. The school picnic arrived. As the bus filled, Seiji stepped on with straight, glossy hair that stunned everyone. Sitting in the back, Zuk watched quietly, his mood dark. At the picnic site, Seiji carefully placed her jar of paper beads on Hyen's seat. That night, the group decorated a special spot for her confession. Guided by arrows, Hyen arrived, surprised to find only Seiji waiting there. He complimented her straight hair, admired the jar of beads, and thanked her again for saving him. Then Hyen mentioned the beach that day, saying only the two of them knew about it. Seiji froze. He didn't know that Zuk had been there too. In that instant, she saw Zuk quietly turning to leave. Her heart clenched and clarity washed over her. She looked at Hyen and confessed, "I like you very much, and I brought you here tonight to confess. But when I was about to speak, I kept thinking about someone else. I believed I needed to change myself to be liked, to become beautiful for someone's eyes. But when I am with him, I never feel the need to change. I can simply be myself." The person she spoke of was none other than Zuk. Seiji returned to the group, her friends eager to know if her confession had succeeded. She didn't answer. Instead, her eyes silently followed Zuk. The next day, Zuk, unaware of what had truly happened, avoided Seiji at every turn. That night, he saw the light glowing in the warehouse. He hesitated outside, torn by his own emotions, before finally stepping in, knowing that Seiji would be waiting there. On the table inside the warehouse, Seiji had quietly prepared new books for Zuk. The two of them sat in silence for a while, neither daring to break quiet. Finally, Seiji turned to him and asked softly, "Aren't you curious about what happened at the confession? Don't you want to know?" She admitted she hadn't confessed to Hyen. Surprised, Zuk asked why. Seiji smiled faintly and replied, "Because I want to focus on studying. But don't tell the others. I don't want to disappoint them. When the university entrance exam comes, just buy me a big candy. Maybe it will help me do better." The next day at school, Seiji's heart sank a little when she saw Zuk chatting with In, the curly-haired girl. A flicker of jealousy crept in, though she tried to hide it. That night, Zuk's mother noticed a large gift sitting on the sofa. When she asked about it, Zuk explained that Seiji had asked him to buy a really big candy. He then told his mother that he intended to take the university entrance exam next year. Shocked, she reminded him that he once said he'd rather die than take it. Soon after, Zuk went to Seiji's house, bringing her the oversized candy gift she had won. As he turned to leave, Seiji suddenly stopped him to ask if he was close to In. Without hesitation, he assured her he was not. Then, wishing her luck on her exam, he left. The day of the entrance exam arrived. Among the well-wishers, Seiji received a special surprise, a giant gift bag from a cheerful bear mascot. When the costume came off, it was none other than Zuk. Her heart swelled with warmth. In the following days, while waiting for results, Seiji's group gathered to eat spicy rice cakes. but Seiji excused herself, saying she had to help her mother. Zuk also claimed he had errands at home. Suspicious, the group followed, and to their amazement, they discovered Seiji and Zuk secretly meeting. They could hardly believe their eyes. Later, Seiji and Zuk returned to the beach where they had first met. Seiji asked him why he had jumped into the sea that day. His eyes darkened as he explained that he had been overwhelmed by misery, letting his thoughts drift to what might happen if he let the waves take him. But then, through the water, he saw her swimming. Her presence pulled him back to life. Slowly, he handed her the name tag he had kept all this time, confessing that he had held on to it as a reminder of the person who saved him. He gently took her hand, looked into her eyes, and told her that he loved her. Neither wanted to part when they returned home, their hands clinging until Seiji leaned in and placed a shy, tender kiss on his lips. Her cheeks burned, but her heart felt at peace. Back at home, Zuk's mother told him that on Sunday, she had to go up to Seoul to pick up a new hairdryer. He asked if she needed him to come along, but she shook her head and told him to stay behind to look after the shop. The next day, Seiji had a family picnic. Before leaving, she didn't forget to call Zuk. And during their conversation, she kept reminding him about Sunday, the day of their promised date. Right after that, Seiji called her close group of friends. She asked them to help prepare everything for her big confession to Zuk at the beach. Finally, that special Sunday arrived. While the group was busy decorating the location, Seiji and Zuk had already arrived. Seeing this, everyone quickly hurried into their assigned positions, following the plan. Standing a little distance away, Seiji signaled for her friends to stop, but they didn't understand her meaning. At that exact moment, Zuk received a text message from someone and said he needed to step aside to make a phone call. At that moment, Zuk received a message. His face grew grim. His mother had been hospitalized. Apologizing to Seiji, he rushed away to Seoul. At the hospital, Zuk found his mother unconscious in a coma, with his father standing coldly at her side. His father claimed she had fallen down the stairs. Then, instead of showing concern, he turned the blame on her, saying she had ruined Zuk's studies and failed as a mother. Zuk clenched his fists, certain his father was lying, convinced his mother had been pushed. His father ignored his anger and ordered him to go home. Days passed and no one could reach Zuk. When Seiji and her friends visited his house, they found the shop shuttered with a for rent sign. Confused and worried, Seiji remembered that his father was a professor at Seoul National University Hospital. Desperate, she took a bus into the city. At the hospital, she asked for patient Jiang Mi and was directed to the room, where she overheard a chilling conversation. Zuk's father coldly told his wife and son that they were leaving for America immediately. If they returned home again, they would never escape his grip. Tears streamed down the faces of mother and son, neither wanting to leave but both powerless. Standing outside the door, Seiji heard every word, her chest tightening with dread. That night, Seiji dialed a public phone. When Zuk's voice answered, she froze, and then heartbreaking words escaped her lips. She denied all her feelings for him. Seiji's voice trembled through the phone as she forced the words out. Zuk, I've only ever seen you as a friend. I'm telling you this so you won't misunderstand. From now on, we don't need to see each other again. She said it not because her heart wanted to, but because she understood the impossible situation he was facing. She didn't want him to sacrifice everything because of her. That night, Seiji cried endlessly, knowing this was the last time she might ever speak to the boy she truly loved. Days later, the school held its graduation ceremony. Seiji, to the surprise of her homeroom teacher, graduated with honors. Yet even as she smiled for photographs and held her certificate, her heart was heavy. Looking at the yearbook pictures of her class only deepened her longing for Seiji. Unable to bear the weight of her memories, Seiji went to the warehouse, the place where all their shared moments seemed frozen in time. On a bookshelf, she found a notebook that Zuk had left behind. On its cover, in his handwriting, were the words, Love Chronicle. Inside, she discovered photo after photo of herself and their group of friends. In every image, Zuk had written small notes, capturing her expressions. Whether happy or sad, laughing or crying, he had loved everything about her. Not because she was perfect, but simply because she was Seiji. She was not only the girl who had once saved him at the beach, She was the one who had pulled him out of the darkness of his life, the one who had saved him from his own nightmares. Once he had clutched her name tag as though it was his lifeline, but now he no longer needed it, because her name, her presence was carved into his very heart. As Seiji turned each page of the notebook, tears spilled from her eyes. A beautiful love was laid bare before her, yet it felt so far away, just out of reach. Wandering the beach in despair, she sent Zuk a text. "I can't meet you today. I'm not feeling well." It was the kind of excuse she had used before, a message she never thought he would reply to, but this time his answer was different. He replied, "You look just fine to me." Her phone rang, and before she could comprehend, a familiar voice called her name from behind. She turned, and there he was, Zuk, standing right there on the sand. Disbelief turned into overwhelming relief. Seiji ran forward and threw her arms around him, sobbing apologies. She confessed that she had lied, that she never meant the cruel words she had spoken. She had never once stopped missing him, never once stopped loving him. Of course, Zuk understood. With quiet eyes, he reached into his bag and pulled out a jar filled with paper beads. Each one, he explained, represented a memory of her, moments he never wanted to forget. Tears blurred their vision as they clung to each other, overwhelmed by emotions they could no longer hold back. Their friends who had been hiding nearby rushed out cheering, celebrating the reunion of this beautiful couple. There was no need for a public confession, no grand stage. What bound them together was far greater, the truth of their hearts unshaken and indescribable. And so their story, love story with false hair, came to an end. Their love story may be dramatic, but hitting that subscribe button is the real happy ending.